Hey, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let There Be Talk. Today is Monday, March 23rd, and this episode is brought to you by the mighty McGuire Harley-Davidson, the best Harley-Davidson dealer in Northern California. And I'm not just saying that. I think they are fantastic. They got an ultimate showroom, awesome employees, they're family-owned. Go visit them. Go see my boy Ryan. They're at 93 First Avenue, Pacheco, California. You can find them online at McGuire-HD.com. Of course, Sturgis is coming this summer. You've been dreaming of going. I'm going. Go in there to McGuire, get yourself a bike, and ride out to South Dakota. Don't be trailering your bike. That's stupid. Just fucking fly to Sturgis if you're going to trailer your bike, man. Fly there and rent one. Why would you even do it? I'm telling you right now, you go to Sturgis, it's all about the ride out there. Fighting with your buddies over where you're going to eat. Sleeping on some floor of a shitty hotel that they're charging you $9,000 for that's usually $5. Yes, that's the fun of Sturgis. Sunburns, $90 beers, $6 gas. How could you go wrong? Get yourself a bike at McGuire and a bucket full of fucking cash and ride out to Sturgis. It's the 75th anniversary. 75 years they've been robbing people out there in South Dakota. Yeah. But a place you're not going to get robbed is at McGuire Harley, man. They're cool. They got a great service department. They put some cool parts on my bike. I did their grand opening last year. I love this place. They're not just a sponsor. They're friends of mine. So go see them. Go see Ryan and his dad. His dad rides. And get yourself a bike and meet me out at Sturgis. I'll be in Deadwood the entire time. Just laughing. Laughing at all the chaps. Guys still wearing chaps out there. And don't call them assless chaps. All fucking chaps are assless. If they're not, they're leather pants. Get it right. Don't say, hey, here he comes in the assless chaps. Yeah, chaps have no ass, so just call them chaps. Anyway.
He was known as the meanest, baddest love-making town. He had a reputation for getting round all the women and for breaking their hearts, leaving them all crying. And he told me, son, let me give you some advice. Gotta remember this for the rest of your life. He told me to find
I'm out of my mind today. I'm in a good mood. I had a great fucking time. I was out in Toronto. And first of all, let me just tell you, Toronto was probably, out of my 5 years, 3 months of doing comedy, was the best time I've had in years. And it was because of the people that booked me and I spent the time with. Of course, I met Drew Sample and Jason, who you can find on Twitter, at Drew Sample. Jason's got a confusing one, which is no_Susquehanna, SUSQUAHENNA. I don't know what the fuck that is. Anyway, I meet these guys when I'm on the road with Red Band. They're Desquad, Ohio. They hit me up, say, hey, we want to bring you up to Toronto to play the Underground Cafe, which is one of the coolest places I've been, owned by a woman named Puff Mama. And promoter that did it, Joe of the Jungle. Joe of the Jungle, which is highontrees.com. I mean, let me tell you, these fucking guys are top-notch humans. And Red Band, I'm so glad that I've worked with Red Band over the last couple of years because I'm meeting some of the coolest people. Death Squad people are just amazing, man. They're into good music and they're into good comedy and they're just into having fun, man. So I go to Toronto and spend the weekend with these guys. They say, hey, you want to get some barbecue? I'm like, yeah, barbecue in Toronto. That's hilarious. It turns out to be the best barbecue I've ever had. When was the fuck? You never hear this. Hey, you want great barbecue? You got to go to Toronto. Never fucking heard that. Ever. Insane. It'd be like saying, oh, you looking for good Chinese food? Hit Oklahoma. It's just as absurd. But they take me to this place. It's called Aft Kitchen and Bar. You can get them on Twitter. It's aft_bar. And we eat the finest barbecue. And I'm telling you, I grew up in the Bay Area. I worship Oakland ribs. Flints. I ate Flints on a weekly basis. You know, I ate Memphis Minis for years in the Lower Haight. I'd go in and get a slab of baby backs and mac and cheese. I fucking love ribs. I've had ribs in Texas. I've had them in St. Louis. I've had them all over. Any place they say you got to have the ribs here. And they're never as good as Oakland. Flints. Pull up to a shitty like old house off Shattuck. They'd hand you a brown paper bag and be a slab of ribs for $12, and you and your buddy would eat them and be in fucking heaven. So nothing ever beats the ribs. It's like the argument that Spicer and I had over burritos. Nothing's going to touch a San Francisco burrito. I don't care what you say. Anyway, we sit down. The owner comes over, talks to us. Awesome, cool dude. Forgot his name already, of course, because I've been in a weed smoke haze known as the Underground Cafe for 48 hours. He sits down with us. He explains to us the science of a smoker. You know, he's got this custom smoker that he's done some modifications to. And this fucking brisket's always dry. I don't care what anybody says. You got to have the brisket. Then you get it. It gets fucking dry. Tastes like shit. Every time. But we get the brisket and it knocks me out. And then I get the pork ribs and a pulled pork sandwich. I can't even believe I'm alive today. I just feel like Fred Sanford in there. Like, the big one's coming. You big dummy. So we go back the next day and we destroy more meat. Vegan's paradise. Vegans would hate this place. You leave it and you just smell like just this amazing smoker cologne on your neck. So that was one of the highlights. And then another highlight, they take me around Queen Street, which is where the club is if you ever go to Toronto. Go there immediately. We go to this bar called the Bill Hicks Bar. Insane. It's the Bill Hicks Bar. It's like this. So you go up these stairs. It's like you're in somebody's attic. They got Space Invaders in there and tons of badass posters and records. They even got a dude who works there. It looks like Bill Hicks, like, you know, when Bill Hicks was like 24. Unbelievable, man. I couldn't believe how cool this place. A Bill Hicks Bar in Toronto. Toronto home run. I love you. I will be back. I will be working with Joe and Drew and Jason and, you know, the Underground Cafe. And big shout out to all the guys, the people I met over the weekend and people that listen to the podcast. It's always so fucking weird. You know, these people show up and they go, man, I love the podcast. It doesn't matter how many times I hear that. It's special to me, man. It's as you know, fucking crybaby as that sound, it tears me up. Like, wow, man, somebody in Toronto is listening to Let There Be Talk. Here I am sitting in my house 2,600 miles away doing this intro. And, you know, you do something because you love it. And eventually, you know, somebody catches on to it. And then, you know, you're talking to these people a couple years later, face to face. Like, wow, I can't believe it. And, you know, there's nothing better than that. Because right away, if they listen to the podcast, you know they're into rock. You know they're into good movies. You know they're into comedy. You know they're into guitars or watches or vinyl or turntables, anything I talk about on here. So I know, oh shit, eh? Oh shit, eh? I started sounding Canadian. Anyway, you know, wow, I want to talk to this. This is going to be a great conversation. I know we're going to be talking about some great shit. Anyway, thank you. And I mean that, man. It's just when you're 49 and you're doing comedy, you can't believe it. People are coming out. You're doing an hour on stage in a weed smoke haze with a fire throat and just enjoying life. Like, wow, I can't believe I'm here in Toronto headlining. And it was sold out. Saturday night was sold out. So it was just like I'm headlining this sold out show. And people listen to the podcast, and, you know, a lot of that has to do with Red Band turning me on to the Death Squad, taking me out to that 3-show run in November. You know, it's just things change your life. It's hilarious. You just go, wow, we did 3 shows, and those 3 shows, I met all kinds of great people. Anyway, I'm winded on that. My voice is shot. I'm going to give you a couple things, and then we'll get to the episode. I want to thank all the people that donated to the podcast. Unbelievable. You know, you guys have all been amazing. David Crittenden, thank you, buddy. Sharon Johnson, a woman. Can you believe it, guys? A woman listens to the podcast. Awesome, man. I love it. Terry McLennan, thank you. Sean Allen, Steve Chabin, I'm terrible with names. Meg Cunningham, another woman, or maybe a dude that doesn't know how to use PayPal and had to use his woman's account. Tim Blackledge from Great Britain donated some pounds. Thank you. Where are you? Are you in London? Steve McDonald, of course, talked about him before. Thank you for the donations. You want to donate? Hit me at deandelray@yahoo.com, and I'll tell you how to do it. Last but not least, what do we got? I guess Tuesday night, if you live in Los Angeles, email me, deandelray@yahoo.com, and you want to get on the guest list to see me, excuse me, Eliza Schlesinger and Gerard Carmichael with our good buddy Jay Davis, who's putting on a huge show at the Club Nokia. That's where I performed with Artie Lang in November, right next to the Staples Center. Do not miss this. Tuesday night, 8:30 doors, 9:30 show. This thing is fucking going to rock. We got Super Naked playing. I'm going to sing a song with them at the end of the night. You cannot beat this lineup, man. Eliza and Gerard, hit me. You want to get on the guest list. We're going to pack this thing out and make it a rock and roll party. That's this Tuesday, March 24th. And then Sacramento, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I will be up there with the mighty Ari Shaffir, and I am looking forward to these dates. I cannot wait. Sacramento, March 26, 27, 28. Come see me with Ari Shaffir at the Punchline. And I guess that's about it. Let's get into the episode. Talk about fucking something cool here. Look, I want you to listen to this. If you look at it and go, I don't know this guy or I don't know the topic, I don't just throw anyone on here. So if I have him on, it's a reason. This guy was the tour manager for the Black Keys, okay? He's out working for the Black Keys. He played music all his life. He's a lot like me. And in the middle of his life, a complete right turn into a new business, which is pedals. So he's working for the Black Keys, being a tour manager, fixing their pedals and shit. In the meanwhile, decides to start making a couple pedals. From there, he becomes a complete success story. If you play guitar, you know what a stomp box is. If you don't, listen to this, because what I'm trying to say is any song you've ever heard probably in the last 40 years has a guitar effect on it. You don't know what a guitar effect is, you're going to want to listen to this episode because it's about everything. It's about a cool person. Him and his wife, I meet, okay? Jamie and his wife, Julie, I meet them. They sponsored the podcast for over a year. They love comedy. They were listening to my podcast before I met them. They are absolutely some of the nicest people I met. They should be Canadian. That's how nice they are. That's what I say, Canadian, man. There's no nicer people than Canadians. Man. So anyway, I want you to listen to this episode because this guy, Jamie, is unbelievable. He, he came down, he explained exactly what a guitar pedal is, how he started doing it, how they're a success now. They're out of Akron, Ohio, which, of course, I call Devo, Ohio. So sit back. Thank you guys for tuning in. I love all you. I know it sounds hokey, but I feel great today. Light the candles of rock. Sit back. Here he is, Jamie Stillman. All right, here we are, another episode of Let There Be Talk. I got a great guest today. Introduce yourself. Tell them who you are, where you're from.
My name is Jamie Stillman. I own a pedal company called EarthQuaker Devices from Akron, Ohio.
Isn't it stomp boxes?
We'll go with stomp boxes.
Right.
I call them pedals or
pedals
or devices. That's it.
It's amazing to think about stomp boxes. First of all, we met about a year ago through Juan Alderetti, who uses your pedals.
Yep.
And then you guys have been sponsoring the podcast forever.
Yep.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
But we hit it off because you were a comedy fan and you said you had heard me on Marin.
Yeah, totally. I think I started listening to your podcast right before I met you.
That's so weird. You still listen to it?
Yeah, totally. It's awesome. I like it a lot. It's right up my alley. I grew up on 80s metal and comedy.
Which podcast do you listen to? You listen to Marin?
And you.
And you, that's it?
That's basically it.
Wow, that's fucking...
Serial.
I feel good then.
I got roped in.
That's fucking badass. Now, I of course, I'm a fucking, music equipment freak. Mm-hmm. You're out here for the NAMM show.
Yep.
Which we agree is absolute chaos.
Yeah, it's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, I've been going to that thing. How long you been? When did the company open?
I started doing it in 2005. It got serious about 2008, and I think we started going to NAMM maybe 2010, something like that. But we do summer and winter, so it's like 2 times a year. I think this is the 10th one that I've been to.
I started going in the 80s.
Can't imagine. I've heard stories.
It was just in the main convention center, just small. It's big, but
right,
the flying saucer part.
Oh yeah, I love that place, like the battle arena.
Yeah, it was only that. And then last year it was the first time I'd gone in like 10 years to go see you, and it's fucking like 4 stories in the back.
It's
insane. All these shitty little boxes.
Yeah,
like Gibson's in box number 4 up there. And there's like 900 dudes.
Yeah, it's so overwhelming too, because like if you're looking for something specific, you got to wade through mountains of shit to find it, and eventually, like it's so. I don't understand how some people can display and get any kind of business out of it if no one's looking for you. It's so over the top intense.
It's so true. I felt like kind of sorry I was going by because I love gear and I can't clown people there. Most people don't play. They're just nerding out.
Right.
And I understand it because yesterday I did an interview for Gibson, and I feel that the Les Paul, the 59 Les Paul, is as much art as, say, a fantastic painting or a great record or a film,
Yeah.
But my point is, I remember last year walking by certain booths, and there was one, it was Ayot Drums or Ayot, whatever. The guy,
right.
He's in Vancouver. And there was a time where DW Drums was the fucking shit, which they still are, but I'm saying they were the shit. And then this guy was making drums with wood rims and stuff. And all of a sudden, Matt Cameron starts playing him Soundgarden and shit. And next thing you know, he's on the map. So I'm walking by, and there he is, just by himself,
right,
with 4 drum kits. And I'm like, fuck, that guy seems lonely.
Yeah,
you know? He's
totally.
old and he's just like, I hope I sell something. I feel fucking, because music, the business, I was just had a guy here from Mono, and he said it's only like $3 billion now or something total, the whole industry of instruments.
Interesting. I guess I don't really pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it is funny. I see that stuff at NAMM all the time where it's like you see this thing and you used to see it everywhere. And now it's just like, oh, here's their little booth. And it's like, but the thing is it's all still relevant. And it's cool that they can still, they're still doing it. NAMM is not cheap.
No.
To do.
What is it NAMM cost for a booth?
For us, I would say, the booth itself, I think it's like $15,000 at Winter NAMM for our booth. And we do a 20 by 20.
And that's small.
Yeah,
think those fucking
that's a
Marshall
mid-size one. But yeah, the giant ones. I have no idea how much that costs. But like all said and done, I think when we are finished with NAMM, and we're a relatively small company, not tiny but still small, it costs us probably $60,000 to do NAMM with like flights and wages and the booth rental and the space rental and power, and so much shit goes into it.
Yeah, car rental, hotels,
all that shit. And like
Disneyland, you got to go there, right?
I actually haven't been to Disneyland for NAMM, but we took our girls out there for spring
I remember
break.
after, right?
Yeah.
That's incredible. $60 fucking grand.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous.
How many pedals is that?
So many. I don't know. But it's weird though, like every year it ends up paying off. It takes about 6 months. So I watch the cycle. And it's like, little by little, everyone who visited you at NAMM, they come back, and it raises a profile somewhat. And I kind of just feel like we're in the cycle now, so it's like, why stop? We'll keep doing it until it's not really cost worthy.
So what happens at NAMM? They like vendors come up and go, we like your pedals, we want to start stocking them?
It's pretty much as mind-numbing as that. It's like you sit around and you say the same thing over and over again. Everyone comes up and asks the same questions, and you're like, oh, well, this is what this does. And it's really meant for, artists and dealers and just industry people to come see, like, what's new and, like, what's out there. And, we have a ton of dealers. Like, I feel like we have, like, any dealer that would carry what we have in the U.S. But every year, I'm surprised. Like, we'll pick up 10, and 10 will do it. Like, 10.
Wow, 10. How many dealers you got carrying this stuff?
A couple hundred.
Wow.
Two or 300.
U.S. or worldwide?
Worldwide, I would say. But, like, to be honest, I'm a little bit in the dark. I don't really handle the dealers. Yeah,
your wife does?
Yeah, my wife does.
Right.
And then
so
this guy, Carl. And
you guys
Corey
are the only owners of the company?
Yeah, Julie and I, we own the company. But the other thing I'm in the dark on is, like, we have distributors, like, in Europe and Canada and stuff like that, and some of them just don't want to tell us what stores we're in, and I don't know why.
That's weird,
Yeah,
right?
it is a little bit weird.
Maybe because they're afraid you'll go, they're charging them more or something.
That's what I think, is I think they think we're going to step in and be like, well, all right, well, we can do this now. But, that's not the case. We don't have all the time in the world to deal with that stuff. Plus, like, I never set out to be a businessman. Like, I just wanted
What did you do before pedals?
Fuck around and make sounds, I think. But I've been a musician forever, like since I was born. That's all I wanted to do.
Right.
So that was basically it. I've toured and played music, and then right when EarthQuaker started becoming a thing that I realized would be a job, I was tour managing.
Wow. Now, tour manager for who? Any big bands?
The Black Keys. Only them.
The Black Keys?
Yeah, that's the only one.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit.
All right.
Now, Akron, Ohio, which I changed to Devo, Ohio.
Yeah, I keep hearing that. I might actually be the only person in Akron that doesn't own a Devo record.
That's fucking absurd. You should leave now.
Yeah. Here, this counterbalances that. I own a Mellotron that used to belong to Mark Mothersbaugh, though.
Yeah.
So that works, right?
I try to tell people, like when I saw the Devo movie on Saturday, you got to think how old are you?
37.
So you weren't alive in 72.
Nope.
But imagine you live in Akron now. What is the demographic of it? Is it hipster? Is it rock? Is it hip hop? I'm just trying
It's pretty
blue collar.
Pretty blue collar. I think that there's a college there, and it was a pretty burned out town. And like I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, the college started bringing in kids. So, like, playing music in the town, like, you get to see the waves of people. And, like, right now, it seems There's a fair amount of hipsters,
Yeah.
but they don't have like a hipster attitude. They got kind of like an Ohio fuck it attitude.
Yeah, just Pabst Blue Ribbon
just
and a
chain,
fixie.
Yeah, chain smoking cigarettes. And
Now, the reason
wearing
I'm
the right
asking you
pants.
what it's like is, could you imagine 5 guys, they're going to school there, and they go, hey, man, let's start a band, which during the era of Jimi Hendrix, Janis,
Right.
classic rock,
Yeah.
The Doors, Zeppelin, The Who, is all booming.
yeah,
There's no fucking punk rock. And they
Right.
come out 72 through 74, and they're playing stuff like Joko Homo,
Yeah.
Mongoloid, and they're explaining it in this film how hippies in Akron are like, fuck you, enough.
right, yeah. Like, I mean, I can't fucking imagine what people thought of them then. But I will say, like, Cleveland had a huge scene for that shit. And Devo started in Kent, if I'm not mistaken, and Kent was a pretty... I mean, I grew up in Kent. That's where, like, my parents lived. It's a pretty artsy town. Like, that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my bands, like, when I was, like, 14, like, you know, we could take over pizza places and shit and just do whatever we wanted to do there. And there's, like, lots of house shows, and that shit had been going on there forever. There's a ton of bands, like... I can't actually remember any off the top of my head.
Yeah, I
like,
get it.
Just a ton of bands like that from there, and it was pretty accepted. I don't know what Akron was like, but like Akron, I feel like, you know, the general vibe of Akron has not changed, and it's like a pretty. I don't even know what you call urban redneck kind of thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like I can't imagine what Devo would be like.
That's
back
why I
then.
love
It's
them
like
so
it's
much.
fucking crazy.
There's no possibility of them thinking we're going to get famous.
No.
It's like Lenny Bruce when he comes out. He's saying fuck, and people are like, whoa, I don't want to hear. I'm just talking about people outside the box. They just
like
have their vision, and all they care about is what they're doing. This is getting us off.
Yeah, I think it would blow their mind. And I mean, I kind of feel like that for any of the bands that get out of that town. Like when in the 90s, like my first band that I toured with, we were like a pretty... I don't know, like a spastic Sonic Youth, and like we were touring, but none of the other bands were touring from there. And then they would be like, well, this band's touring, they must be something awesome. And then they would come see us and be like, I don't think they're actually fucking playing music. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
So I kind of understand that vibe, like what it must have been like for them. But back then, I can't even imagine. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how they didn't get beat up all the time.
I don't either, because they look like guys you would just beat up
Right.
back then.
Yeah.
Like rednecks would be like, take them out back, skin these motherfuckers.
Yeah, and I wouldn't doubt if there was definitely some of that going on then. I don't think it would be like that nowadays, but back then for sure.
So I get turned on, I think, to the Black Keys maybe 02, 03, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty early on, I think. I think
Yeah.
I started working with them in 2004.
Now, I saw them. I was working for the Stones, and we had a night off in London, and I went out to fucking it was like a half-hour ride to a place called the Garage.
I know the Garage.
Okay, and saw these motherfuckers in which would be the most fire trap building I've ever been in.
Right.
It held maybe 200. There was 500 in there.
Yeah.
It was blazing sweat, and I went by myself. I couldn't get anybody to go. Like, I was like, you got to see this band. I'd never seen them, but I had their CD. I go, and it's fucking mind-boggling how awesome it was.
Yeah,
They played like an hour, and they destroyed.
Yeah.
Were you out during that time?
No, that was like before me. Also, they had kind of a weird situation. I would tour manage them in the U.S. only, and then they would have like a different one in,
that makes sense.
Europe,
Guys that knew the Europe
yeah,
run.
and then one in Australia. And then I ended up. I mean, the only thing I ever did with them out of the country, I went to Australia just to sort of like a roadie, which just turned into me drinking.
Yeah,
That's
just to go to
basically it.
Australia.
I was just hanging out for like 3 weeks in Australia.
So are you good friends with those guys?
Yeah, I talk to him every once in a while now, but I knew Pat, the drummer, before he was in the Black Keys. He would come see all of our bands. He was like
Right.
he was like an awesome, dirty dude that was super funny, and so like we just always wanted to hang out with him. He was super cool.
Those guys are the kings of the hipsters now.
Yeah, right.
Now, they use your pedals,
They
right?
live in Nashville. Yeah, Pat Carney actually bought the first pedal I ever sold.
Is that right? What
Yeah.
was it called? Did it have a name?
It's called the Fantastic Beast.
Now, how do you pick your names? I keep laughing because
Yeah.
the cloven hoof. That's the one I'm always clowning
That
on.
is mostly it. It's how stupid can I name something and get away with it? Like
I'm ready for the Del Razor pedal.
I'll make you a Del Razor pedal. No
I mean,
problem.
just sell one,
Just sell
though.
one. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll make
yeah.
one. We'll make
My
an exclusive Del Razor.
Hands down, if you made a pedal of mine, it would have to be a T-Wah copy because I love the Dead.
We could probably
Like
do that.
Shakedown Street.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow,
I think it's a Mutron. Oh God.
Not the
This is-
Mutron.
the-
I had that original
Yeah,
pedal.
yeah.
Remember that with the big buttons? It
Yeah.
was fucking like this
Yeah,
big.
the
Sells
giant-
for like $2,000 now.
Yeah, the giant Mutron envelope filter.
Now, people are like, if they're listening, they're going, what the fuck are these guys
Yeah,
talking about?
nerds.
Let's talk about what we're talking about because there's all kinds of people that listen. They're basically, if you've listened to any kind of rock in your whole life, from Radiohead to Hendrix to anything,
Yeah.
the guitar is plugged into multiple different pedals to get different sounds. Because
Right.
if you just plug into an amp, unless you're somewhere where you can turn a 100-watt Marshall on 10,
Right.
your guitar sounds like absolute shit.
Yeah,
It's
it
just like cling,
clean.
cling, cling.
Yeah, just clanging around.
Now, somewhere along the way, that what's his name, Mayer guy, the guy that makes like the original fuzz and the England dude.
Oh, Roger Mayer.
Roger
Yeah, yeah,
Mayer.
yeah.
Somewhere along the way, is he the inventor of guitar pedals? Because who makes?
That's. I feel like that shit is it's a little unclear to me. I try as hard as I can to like be a historian on the shit that
Well,
I'm
you
into.
should, because you make 'em.
Yeah, right. But like my memory retention for like names of people and things and times, I shit at that. It's amazing. It drives me crazy. But from what I gather, yeah, he made the first octave pedal for Hendrix. And like that kind of took off from there. But I feel like the first pedal ever was from Diarman. It's a Diarman Trem, which actually shook up a magnetic fluid, which is actually the equivalent of Windex, with a wire.
Really?
And, like,
Inside? And that
yeah,
made,
inside.
that's how it made
and
the sound?
it had a motor with this jar attached to it with a wire in it. It would just lift the ground, and it made tremolo, so it would just cut the volume on and off.
So was that,
And that company
was
is
that
from Toledo.
mic the liquid, or was it magnetic?
Magnetic.
Like,
Magnetic.
wow.
It would just
That's absurd.
shake the wire around. Yeah.
And that's
And that-
Diarman, the guys that
Diarman-
make the pickups?
Yeah. Diarman Trem. I think that was the first like commercially available effects pedal, and then I think the first fuzz pedal was the Maestro Fuzz Tone, but I could be wrong on that.
Right.
But I think Roger Mayer was definitely. I mean, I might be wrong on this, but I feel like he definitely did the octave pedal, but it might be the fuzz face.
Yeah.
He definitely modded Hendrix fuzz faces to,
It's so
to
weird
sound
to think about,
awesome.
right? Like,
and he's still doing it too. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, they're still making pedals.
my
It's
buddy
crazy.
said he reviewed some of his pedals,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he got his number somehow, and in the middle of the night he called it Roger Mayer. I'm
Yes, very
glad you
serious.
appreciate my pedals, mate. The guy, I can't believe he's not dead from just sniffing solder.
Right? Yeah.
These guys sniff solder all day long with no mask on and
Yeah.
shit.
No, like-
it's got to be just cancer.
Yeah, when I used to do, when it was just me building pedals and like we were starting to take off, I would work like 16 to 20 hours a day, and I would chain smoke inside while I was doing this
With solder
and solder the whole
tobacco.
time. There was like
The solder's probably better for you
yeah,
than
no
cigarettes.
shit. Yeah, it is. But the mixture of those two things, like after a year of doing that, I had no voice. Like I'd like be talking to people and be the
Whoa.
whole time.
Now, how do you
So-
get into pedals? You're fucking like 38, you said?
Yeah, 37, 38.
And you just started like 5 years ago? You
10
got-
years, 10 years
10 years ago. I'm
but
gonna
I've
make
been,
pedals.
I mean, you know, I've been into the guitar forever. Like
I know, but are you
like
an electronics guy?
Oh no, I'm a electronics hack. It was just sort of I was working as a freelance graphic designer, like in between tours and stuff like that. And I had some broken pedals. I was like, I'm going to fix these things. I'll look up the schematic, and like the schematic made sense to me just from a design background. It's like, oh, I can follow from point A to point B. I get
Right.
this. And when I looked at it, I was like, that shit is simple. Like I understood like the theory of like resistance and stuff like that. A lot of the basics came pretty easy, but then I just like went for it. Like I didn't bother to learn anything for real. It's just like I'll skim over some shit and be like, oh, this is how you do this thing. All right, you get there. And I just started hacking away at stuff, and like I would say 1% of anything that I would build would work. But I got hooked, like addicted, like super obsessive. And just from being that way, like, I eventually started to hack together circuits and stuff that would work, and like it just kind of grew from there. Like I think I understand intuitively more than I think I know.
Yeah.
But if somebody asked me to teach a course on it, or if some like real electronics engineer was like, so what do you think about the resistive properties of this thing? I would be like, I have no fucking idea what you're talking to me. I just like to make sound out of stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can make parts turn on, and I know what the general outcome is going to be.
To me, some of the, are your pedals circuit board, or are they point to point?
Circuit board. They're all PCB. I can do like point to point stuff, but like, I mean, at the volume of stuff that we're making, and like,
right.
We employ 23 people now, and almost all of those are circuit builders. Like, that's the other thing. Like, we are, not a lot of people do what we do. Not a lot of people make stuff entirely by hand. So like, we start from, the ground up, and everything is done populated by hand, soldered by hand.
You make the cases at your place?
We used to. Like, that was my last like hands-on job there. I would screen print and drill all the cases, but like, we can't handle the volume. So like, the cases are painted, silk screened, drilled at a place in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And the circuit boards themselves are manufactured at a place in Colorado, and then sometimes we do them at some place in China.
And then you guys just put them together?
And then they come in, and we put all the parts in them and wire them up and test them all. And that's what all those people do. So it's like paint by numbers. It has to be paint by numbers in order to maintain like just like the level that we want it to
how
be
many
at.
pedals you sell in a month?
800 or so.
Wow.
It might be more than that, though. Like, Julie...
Those things are like $300 a piece, right?
Yeah, around... Anywhere from $1 to $350. That's our price.
Pedals are weird because Juan and I collected them when we were younger, and there was a time where I'd be on tour and I'd just pick them up at pawn shops and shit. The Big Fuzz, the Ibanez 808, the green one, the green Ibanez with the square
tube
button.
Screamers.
Yeah, tube screamer. Yeah. And then it seemed to me. Those pedals would break all the time, and they were starting to go up in price. You're like, fuck, I can't bring these on the road. And then I remember this Klon Centron pedal.
Yeah, the Klon Centaur, the holy grail of overdrive.
I own 2 of those, and I don't have them now, and I wish I did.
Yeah, I bet you did.
I sold everything to do comedy, and now I'm like, if I make it, I'll buy this gear back. But at like 100 times the price.
Yeah,
that pedal at the time was $300. But it was bulletproof, and the first ones were copper. And then later they got cheap and went to the like just pot metal looking ones.
Yeah, the silver ones. That became like the main production model, I think, of that pedal. That pedal's a weird one. Like, I think the mystique, like the myth of that pedal, is worth more than the actual sound of that pedal. Like,
when it came out, people worshipped it.
Yeah, no, and people still do. Like that, it's a very like no one could clone that. Cloning is a big thing, like in like the boutique pedal industry. Almost everyone
didn't they like
clones.
spray
they
goo
gooped
on
it.
it? So
It's just like you open it up, it's like covered in black nacho cheese.
I remember that, man.
Disgusting.
You'd open it up, it'd just be goo.
Somebody finally there's a site that just like hacks stomp boxes. And they like pulled money together and bought like a $2,000 Klon Centaur and like slowly chiseled that shit off, reverse engineered it, put the schematic up on the internet, and that was it. Like, everyone is making a clone of that now, like from big guys to like from Electro Harmonics down to like little guys. And it's
now, are they out of business?
Who? Klon?
Yeah.
No, like he kind of like has a thing like the Centaur as it was, which that box was awesome. Like, even without like what's inside of it, that would be an awesome paperweight. Like, it's
just beautiful.
It's a really good looking pedal.
I mean, that was a time when matchless amps were out, and though Mark Sampson was hand wiring these fucking amps in the valley.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just making the greatest amps. And then this pedal comes out. And then there's Victoria, which is fantastic. And all of a sudden, the equipment is fucking great. And Fender and Marshall are sitting there with their dicks in their hands because they're doing circuit board stuff and just junk. And all of a sudden, it was great because it made them have to make great amps again. And they really just make their original amps.
Yeah, I kind of think that's like... I do feel like it goes a little bit both ways. Like, I feel like there's a little bit of a misconception that if like a thing is populated on a circuit board or whatever, it's junk. I think the real problem is they were like cranking shit out and just cranking shit out. Nobody was listening to it. I think that's the problem. Like, the circuits evolved to a point where it's like, this isn't what it used to sound like, but no one notices because a machine is making the shit and we're selling it. It looks the same, but it doesn't sound the same.
Right.
And then once people started to really care about it again, like in the 90s, I feel like that's when all those companies, I think, took a hit, and I think they have been taking a hit for a long time, and now they're all starting to figure this out, like in like the last 5 years. Like, it's funny, you would look through guitar magazines and you see ads, and it's like hand wire tone. It's like,
yeah.
Well, what does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like, how does that mean anything?
You're right there, because it's like when the 59 Les Pauls went back to cloth wired, and the Bumblebee capacitors, and the proper knobs and shit. I think it's mostly for me. I didn't want to pay $2,000 for something that they were spending $10 on.
Exactly.
And it was like, come on, man.
I still do, like, if I buy a new guitar, like if I buy a new Fender guitar, within an hour that guitar is gutted.
Really?
I just rewire it. Yeah, I replace pickups, I rewire the whole thing, I replace caps. I don't care if there's nothing to it. Like, real electronics guys will be like, the parts now are better than the parts back then. I don't. To me,
you believe that?
To an extent, they're more precise,
right?
But maybe the precision isn't exactly what makes a better musical instrument. I feel like, like if you listen to it, like I have things that I like the sound of, like, and to me they sound different. Like I know what caps I like on a tone control of a guitar. Like I'm going to put that in a guitar, and I don't give a shit if it matters to anybody else. Like to me, it sounds good. But like, I mean, I opened up like a brand new Fender. It's made with garbage inside.
Absolutely.
To me anyway. Like I don't think there's nothing spectacular about it
unless
to justify
you get a
the
relic.
price tag. Yeah. But like, the old ones have a thing. Like you open up a vintage guitar, you open up a vintage anything, and it looks better. Like
it does.
It sound to me that most of the time it sounds better as long as there's no like.
Well, the great thing about that shit is like people took pride.
Exactly.
It'd be like Mary wrote her name in there.
Yeah, right.
Mary wired this in Corona or Fullerton in 1955.
Yeah, and
and she put her name in there. So if it sucked, you open it and went, "Hey, Mary's eating a dick here on the wiring."
Yeah. She was terrible in May of '58.
Yeah,
but we kind of hold over a lot of that stuff. Like if you open up our pedals, it looks like an old MXR pedal. Not that we're copying it, but that's just kind of like the vibe that it has. Like,
yeah. Now, it hasn't
like
every
stuff.
pedal fucking been made?
Sort of.
I know. So why do you? I love your pedals. I'm just asking you.
Thank you.
Why do people? To me, it's a lot of aesthetics. To me,
Yeah,
I like how
yeah.
pedals look.
Me too.
What was that first company that was hand painting them in the '90s?
Zvex.
Yeah,
They're still doing it. Like they're at NAMM. We're good friends with those guys
yeah.
too. Like
I remember
their
those
stuff
guys.
is awesome.
They coming out. They had like bumblebees painted on their fucking shit and rainbows.
Yeah, they still do great stuff. Like we're good friends with one of the, Hannah. She's one of the painters there right now. She does awesome stuff. Yeah. I think that it's kind of one of those things, there's a million pedal companies. Like, there's a way more than I could even ever keep track of. Like, any dude with a soldering iron and a guitar thinks they're a pedal company now.
Yep.
Like, you get that. But I don't know what it is that took us, like, over the edge to where now it's a business. But, I mean, aesthetics is a big thing. Like, our stuff is pretty designy.
It looks cool as shit.
Thanks. Yeah, like, I mean, I have an aesthetic
names
that I like, and I like, it's like half sarcasm, half serious,
name some of the pedals.
half serious shit.
And then tell what they do.
Rainbow Machine, which is like a pitch shifter that modulates itself with itself. These are like things that like
nerd stuff.
Yeah, nerd stuff, and they don't really exist anywhere else that I can think of. Like that, it's a thing that like a normal guitar player would listen to and be like, who uses that thing? How many do you sell? 5? But it's one of our best-selling pedals. It just makes insane noises. Then like the Arpanoid, which is an arpeggiator. It takes one note and runs it up and down a scale. We got Disaster Transport Senior and Disaster Transport Junior, which are named after a roller coaster in Ohio.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's dope. At Cedar Point?
At Cedar Point, yeah.
Oh, God.
And Dispatch Master, which is also named after the same roller coaster, which is a great story that you can just look up on Wikipedia.
I love Cedar Point.
Yeah, that place is amazing. We take company picnics there.
You
every
do?
year. Yeah, we take everyone there.
I want to go one time with your whole company.
Yeah, you should.
I
come
would
out.
in 1 minute.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Now, do you guys make a pedal that does the Leslie effect?
Yeah, sort of like that. That would be like a rotary chorus type thing, and we make one called the Depths. That's sort of like a Univibe
Right, I love the
type pedal.
Univibe pedal. That's, of course, Stevie Ray Vaughan made
Hendrix
famous and then made the pedal through the roof.
Yeah, and those things cost a fortune. Like, when I was kind of researching how to do one, ours is not like a clone of it. It's sort of like a sound recreation in a way smaller, more affordable to manufacture and purchase format.
Yeah.
But I bought an original Univibe, and like that thing, it's a fortune for what it is. But like, again, it looks good. It looks like I collect pedals. Like I collect gear.
How many you got?
Hundreds. I think the last time I counted, it was like close to 400.
You got a Centron clone?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
But you got the brass one?
I had a brass one, and or the gold plated ones.
Yeah.
And I sold it a couple years ago, and then like some guy locally was selling a silver one for a little bit under the cost of eBay. So I was like, I'll buy that. It's here. I can just drive there and go get it.
Yeah.
And then I bought one of the reissues that he did last year that's like a little red, ugly looking pedal.
Oh, he doesn't even.
No,
why doesn't he make the original box?
To be honest, I have no idea. That guy's a mystery. Like, I mean, a lot of people in, like, I guess the gear world, we all talk to each other at some point or another. That guy, I don't know anybody who knows that guy. Like, he did like an interview, and like the interview was like hot shit. Like, everyone was passing it around, but it wasn't interesting. Like, it wasn't an interesting thing. The guy's just sort of like,
wrong interviewer.
Yeah, he was just sort of like, yeah, I just make pedals when I feel like it. It's like,
wow.
Okay. There's got to be more to the story. There's got to be a mystery to you.
Now, are all your people at your place musicians?
Yeah.
Well,
pretty much
great.
all of us. Julie's the only one who isn't, and it's kind of fascinating to me. Like, she's worked with bands forever. Like, she ran a booking agency in the late 90s for a long time, and like, she's dealt with all this shit and been dealing with musicians, been dealing with me, been watching shit come in and out of the house and all this stuff, and now she's sort of running this company.
Yeah.
And she like took a crash course in like, what is a humbucker? What's a single coil? What is a Les Paul?
Well, that's cool, because when people call and they don't get the right answers, they don't think it's a serious company.
Yeah,
if the guy called up and said, hey, I'm running this through a single coil, neck pickup, and I'm getting some heavy harmonic feedback, and she's like, then it's just going to be like, oh, what is this?
Anything that she doesn't understand, she can just turn around and ask anybody there.
But
like, she knows, like, she's the only one who isn't like a musician, I guess, but she knows just as much as we all do now about gear.
Well, she's
from being around it.
She's
like,
good at business. She advertised on my podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Did you guys sell any pedals? Some guy told me he bought a pedal he goes, hey, I bought a pedal from EarthQuaker.
Yeah, it's tough for us. It's tough to gauge. Like, we advertise on your podcast.
And Marin's.
But Marin's is every once in a while. And, like, it's tough to gauge, like, how that stuff works. It's sort of like advertising. To me, placing an ad in a magazine is a fucking mystery. Like, I don't know what's...
Well, the good thing about podcasts is it's around forever.
Right, yeah.
So as the people discover the podcast, it doesn't go away.
But I've definitely had people come up and be like, hey, I heard about your stuff on, your podcast or Marin's podcast. And they find it fascinating. Like, everyone loves that for some reason. Like, that's the thing I hear about the most. It's like, it's cool.
Well, I think pedals are cool as fuck, man.
Thanks.
You got to think about, like yesterday I was playing with these guys to do the Bonzo Bash tomorrow night. Every fucking guy had at least 5 pedals.
Right.
Every guy.
Yeah.
So when you're doing Zeppelin, every guy has a wah, maybe a delay, some kind of overdrive, of course.
A fuzz pedal.
A fuzz pedal. And pedals are like, pedals should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are, but if they're not,
there's a smattering of people's gear around. Like,
but pedals,
pedals themselves. There should be a pedal exhibit there.
That's what I'm saying. They don't understand what it does to rock and roll, country, fusion, jazz. Everybody uses a pedal.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it is an often overlooked thing.
I think so, man.
Of. Yeah,
I think it's incredible. You got to think Eddie Van Halen,
right?
All right? Eddie Van Halen. His pedals, without his pedals, man, you just have a loud Marshall doing hammer-ons. You know what I mean?
He needs that Phase 90.
Then you got to think about Curtis Mayfield. No fucking wah, no funk. You know what I mean? Like wah 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 wah.
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is definitely overlooked. Like, I think with musicians, like, they know, they're like, well, I need to get that vibe. But like a general listener, they have no concept.
They don't even know what the fuck that is. And what I'm saying is, these things are just as big a deal as the song and the instrument and the person
as like
playing
a guitar or drums and shit like that. Like, I definitely agree with you, and I think a lot of that stuff is lost on the listener. And where I think to counter that, I think with a musician, a lot of times, like especially nowadays, which like people are plugging into computers and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, it sounds the same." It's like, dude. Do you hear what that sounds like? It does not sound the same. Some things are pretty convincing and stuff like that, but like, you know, I think there's like two camps of musicians, like ones who think like, oh, technology has made this stuff obsolete again, which, you know, happened in the 80s with like rack effects.
Yeah.
Like with you know, a bank of like thousands of effects in a thing.
Could be the worst thing ever.
Right. And like that killed pedals for a while, but that never really killed pedals. Like the ones that were like the big companies like Boss and MXR and stuff like that. Those guys hung out and everything was still fine with them. And I feel like people think that resurgence is happening again with like the age of computers. Like you can do anything on that stuff. But like this industry, pedals, it's like one of the biggest things in like fretted instruments that, like I said, there's so many companies and like we're all selling enough to make a living. Like,
yeah. Well, here's the thing too. What people don't understand is the pedal it makes it easy for the run and gun. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So if you're just doing one song on a TV show or you're playing 3 songs at a festival or whatever, that the main fucking nightmare of those old rack effects and shit would be a 3-hour sound check because the asshole to the right is like, dude, my board's down. And they're just both rubbing their heads, the tech and him, and you go,
just staring at it.
Get rid of that fucking board. Light it on fire and just get a fucking MXR Distortion Plus, dude.
Yeah,
you
and I do think that that's where like the pedals came back into play like real heavy. Like aside from the fact that like in the 90s they were cheap as shit, like because like everyone sold that stuff and everyone thought it was obsolete. And now, you know, like anything, people collect that and the prices have like skyrocketed. But like you're right though. Like that's why, like, you know, you can just grab a thing. It's like, I need a fuzz sound for this thing. I'm just going to grab it. I don't have to think about programming anything. I don't have to store it. I just plug this in. And like, you know, it's great. I think a lot of that shit is great for the studio.
I think it's fucking fantastic.
But yeah, like...
Well, you remember your first pedal you bought? Mine was the MXR Distortion.
Yeah.
It was the yellow box.
Yeah,
then they had the Distortion Plus. It was like a dual one that you could plug in. No more 9 volts. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. I think the first pedal that I can remember having, it was one of my friend's older brothers was in a band, and we stole a Big Muff Pie and a Boss BF2 flanger, and we like thought that the flanger was like the most awesome thing ever, and that the Big Muff was a pile of shit.
Wow.
Which like I wish that I had that Big Muff now.
Yeah.
Those things are worth a fortune.
Is that the green box one?
It was like an early one. Like I think it was like what they call a triangle one, which is like a 60s or early 70s version of it. That, you know, did sound awesome. But I remember the first pedal that I actually bought with my own money. It was a KMD analog delay. It looked like a Boss pedal. It was a little blue. Yeah, analog delay.
Just a copy?
Yeah, and I still own it. And
you do?
It's still one of my favorite pedals ever. Yeah.
Wow.
That thing, it's been around, I think it's been around the world and still has not broken. It's dirty as shit.
There's so many industry standard pedals, right?
Yeah, right.
You got of course, I think Jim Dunlap, the wah pedal.
The wah, for sure.
And really, that early wah with the long throw was killer because later they went to the shitty capacitor and it would just be too short. It would just be like, whomp.
Yeah,
you know?
that like all that stuff with the inductor, like all the inductors, like at some point, I'm not like big on wah, but like I'd know a good one when
they came out with the 5-knob wah, and you could have like 70s wah or 60s.
You could do all different kinds of things.
Oh, those fucking things are incredible.
Yeah, there's one that I've been actually messing around with lately. It just made by BBE, which is, you know, a little company. Their stuff is pretty cheap to get. It has that knob on the side where you can just kind of tune it. Yeah, and I was surprised. It sounds great.
Clyde wah, which was the fucking. So here's me. You got the Klon Centron. Then you got the Clyde wah. 2 bulletproof fucking pedals. You could do a 2-year tour and nothing would happen to them.
Right, yeah. I mean, the Klon thing is it's like built out of cement.
Yeah, both those are the Clyde wah.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about comedy. So we bonded over comedy. At the time you were listening to Maron's podcast, we start talking. You go, hey, I listened to your podcast and I heard you on Maron. How long have you been checking out comedy? All your life?
Yeah, literally all my life.
Do you go see it live in Akron?
No, there's not really, like, I was unaware that there was, like, that's like a thing. Like, I never really considered going to see comedy. It was just sort of a thing that, like, I grew up with. Like, I remember the thing that sort of changed it. I saw Eddie Murphy Raw when I was really young, and it kind
On
of
TV?
it kind of blew my mind. And then I remember seeing like the Sam Kinison like HBO comedians thing.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of got me hooked on that. Like my parents had just got cable, and I would sit in the basement like late at night and watch all that shit. And like I used to like, I remember like we'd have sleepovers and shit. I was like 10 or 11, and I'd like force my friends to watch like Kentucky Fried Movie.
No, that's,
And for some
Kentucky
reason,
Fried Movie.
like, over and over again.
Hilarious.
And then, the other movie that I went back and watched this, I can't fucking believe I've seen this movie more than anything but Hollywood Shuffle.
Oh,
For some reason, I loved that movie when I was young, and like I watched it on a
Is that Eddie Murphy?
no.
Oh, who's in
It's,
that?
I cannot remember for how many times I've seen that.
Hollywood Shuffle.
know
I
what it
remember
is.
the film.
But like I watched it on a flight like recently, and I was like, why did I like this? This movie is terrible, but like I thought it was the funniest shit when I was younger. And then that stuff translated, and then when Mr. Show came out, like that's really the thing that sort of blew my mind. Like,
Right.
and you can even see there's influences from Mr. Show in our pedals. Like if you read instruction manuals, I'm using made up words from that show all the time.
Is that right?
Yeah, and like I don't know.
That's fucking cool.
I was heavily obsessed with Mr. Show.
I was with
still,
Mary Lynn last night.
Oh wow,
We did a show together. We do
That's
shows
awesome.
together all the time.
and she's great on that show.
And Mr. Show is just fantastic, right?
Yeah, I had met David Cross shortly after that show went off the air, and like I was like, dude, I am the biggest Mr. Show fan. He's like, yeah,
Yeah.
all right. I'm
Well,
sick of you people.
You know how many times
yeah,
he
I know
probably
exactly.
heard that?
Like it never really occurred to me that would be the situation. So now it's sort of like, okay, I get it now. Like,
Yeah.
I understand. But like,
You should have a pedal called Mr. Show.
yeah, we'll
Like,
go
you
for
know,
it.
like that's like this one does every effect.
Everything,
Yeah,
all at once.
Yeah, like an all-in pedal. You know what I mean? It's a little distortion. It's got delay. It's got some wah. Mr. Show.
Yeah.
When you press it, like it just lights up with fireworks.
Everything.
I'm a sucker for
the
that.
Ronnie
Anything
Dobbs,
that
it
lights
just shoots
up.
out white powder.
Yeah, just cocaine.
Yeah.
pedal. That's the pedal you should have. The cocaine.
Cocaine.
That's a great. You should do drug names. Black tar.
I just wanted to make a pedal that just says shit before you solo, like let her rip. Or
Yeah.
watch me go.
So-
Stupid shit.
So you get into this comedy. Do you get into it because your job's monotonous, like soldering or whatever you're doing? So you
No.
start listening to podcasts.
Well, the podcast for sure. Like I kind of got sick. I got burned out on music. Like I had been touring forever, and then tour managing, and like it's just like endless like volume constantly. And then I would still listen to music while I was building pedals, but then you're testing pedals and you're hearing sound like 8 hours a day. After a while, it's like I don't want to hear. I'm kind of like burned on like. I still love music, obviously.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
I wouldn't be doing this
Yeah,
shit.
me too.
It's like
Yeah,
how much-
but I get it.
You get ear fatigue after a while, so it's like I want to hear people talk.
Yeah.
And then, that's how I got into the podcasts. And it's like, it's funny, like I've tried to listen to other podcasts. Nothing really grabs my attention though. Like, I like Marin's because he's got like the sort of same like anxious, angry like vibe that I feel like I have a lot. And I like yours because like you're interviewing a lot of people that like when I was like a kid, I would be like, man, I wonder what these people are into, like
Yeah.
that kind of shit. And then like a good mix of comedians that I'm really into. So
Yeah,
like,
that's cool.
That's why those are like the two that grabbed me. And then I got hooked on that Serial podcast for a little while. That's the
Right.
other one.
When
But,
I took you to see Marin at the Comedy Store, was
Yeah,
that
that
the
was-
first time you seen him?
yeah, that was the first time I'd seen him and the first time I'd been to the Comedy Store. And I had built the Comedy Store up in my mind to be this like sort of legendary thing, and it lived up to it.
Oh,
Like,
thank God.
It's still like when I got there, like it was better than I thought it was going to be.
That's
Like-
cool. I gave you the tour.
Yeah,
get
you
to
did, and it was great. And like we told people about that thing for a year. Like Julie and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever.
Are you going to come this year?
We want to, but we got so much shit this year
Yeah,
to
that
do.
sucks, right?
But
You going to come to the Bonzo Bash? I'm
we're trying.
hosting that and singing.
Yeah, we're trying to.
Oh, yeah. Now, I was going to ask you something. When you're making pedals, like, there's no variance, right? You just go, all right, this one's going to be a fuzz pedal, or what do you do to a pedal to make it like the EarthQuaker pedal? Like, all right, this one.
Well, I think there's a good difference. Like there's a big difference between what it is. Sometimes like I'm setting out to do something. It's like I want to make an octave that sounds like, this like synth type thing.
Right.
And then I'll sit down and I'll figure out like what are the elements that I would think of to make that sound. Maybe it's not the right elements. Maybe like there's something else that can do it. But I will hack away at something until it's like comes into the ballpark. And then I'll eventually just work it out that way. Like I use a breadboard, and a breadboard is basically just like a big board that you can just plug electronic
just
components
test
into.
it, like make a fake pedal.
Yeah, you could basically, it's like a sort of like a circuit board where you can plug shit in and out of and like hook it up in any order you want.
Who the fuck figures this shit out? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, when you plug
that's
in,
pretty archaic technology.
that's what I'm saying. But when you plug in a pedal,
Yeah.
let's say not like your distortion. Okay, that's early. That's late '60s. It's an overdrive pedal. It's just boosting.
Yeah,
the fucking,
broken shit.
It's boosting the
you're
fucking
driving
signal.
the shit out of
I get
transistors.
it. Yeah, but this other shit, man, like you know, like delays and stuff.
And pitch shifters and stuff like that. Yeah, I like that. I think a lot of that stuff comes from broadcasting needs. Like you need to delay signals like to match sync with video and stuff like that, or you need to like
From back in the day?
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from like radio transmission and stuff like that. Like why a lot of that stuff was developed, like why Bucket Brigade delay ICs were made, or like why you would need to modulate something like that. I think that's where a lot of that shit comes from, and then you eventually apply it to other things.
It's so weird, right, to think that some nerd back in the days, like, man, I bet if we take this TV signal delay thing, put it inside a box and plug a guitar into it, it's going to make some wacky sounds. That had to be some acid and meth and shit, guys just tweaking on stuff.
I mean, I feel like it's definitely like, I'm just regurgitating a thing that people did in the 60s.
Well, I get it, yeah.
Where it's just like you have a thought, you're like, what if you did this shit? Like, I have no background in it, like, so like I don't know that people had already done that. Like by the time that I got deep into this, I realized that like people have been doing what I've been doing for years, solved all the problems already, and are on to better things. Whereas I was just like redoing this work that I already
you didn't do any research. It's hilarious.
Research. But like at the same time, that's what I like about it. Like if there's anything like with drums or guitar or electronics, I don't like to know exactly what it is that I'm doing, because then there's no mystery to it. It's like I can play the shit out of the guitar, but you ask me like what the root note is, I don't fucking know, because I don't want to know. Like, I've been playing guitar for 20-something years. I want it. There's got to be an element to fuck up in order to make it interesting to me. You know what I mean? So like that's why like I kind of like electronics. Like there's a lot to fuck up with electronics, and I've done it, and there's still shit for me to fuck up with it. There's still things to catch on fire, things to break.
I love that you started it. You're kind of like me, like you played music forever, and then you just kind of go, fuck, man, I got to do something here.
Right, and
you hit a wall, man.
Yeah,
and it's like,
that's kind of what it is. Like it also incorporated a bunch of things that I like at once, like design, electronics, music. Like it kind of sucks everything I like together.
Yeah, design's a big thing. Are you into architecture, like homes, stuff like that?
To a point. Like I don't follow anything or know too much about it, but I was really into graphic design. Like that was my thing. Like it kind of just came from being into like punk rock bands and having to make T-shirts and
like
having
logos
to make flyers
and shit.
and logos and stuff. And I got really into like just the process of it. I never really followed like any designers specifically, but I still appreciate good aesthetic. You know what I mean? Like if something doesn't look good to me, chances are I'm not going to buy it. Like,
it's true, because that's why the pedals and the matchless amps and all that stuff to me, or the Victoria, the way they aged the Tweed to where it looked like an old Fender Twin. You know, I tweeted it yesterday. Somebody had released the original Van Halen cover that the Warner Brothers wanted to put out.
I didn't see that.
I'll show it to you when we're done. It's hilarious. So the Clash and Sex Pistols and everything was big in '77. So they put this cover together where the band was just looking kind of ugly. They had Mike Anthony up in the front instead of Dave to make it look more punk. And then their logo was this ugly kind of... it's almost an 80s logo, but in 77, and it's like a weird pyramid thing. And the whole thing is horrible. And I think a lot of it has to do with, like you said, design. You would have never picked that record up when it looked like that.
Yeah, I can't imagine what the first Van Halen record would be like where they would be if
it was like that. You would just walk right by because it's Mike Anthony in the front.
Right.
Just hairy chest with a T-shirt, V-neck, know.
You would have never
with that speaker wire hair.
That amazing bass solo in Live Without a Net. Remember that? Where he's like running around with that cape just pounding on the bass. That Jack Daniels bass.
Now, who's let's list some of the guys that use your pedals. Of course, Juan Alderete from Mars Volta, and
I think all those guys used
all the Mars Volta
at some point. I know dudes from Coldplay have them, like Pearl Jam dudes. I mean, there's a ton of like indie bands that use those.
Do they call you for free pedals?
All the time.
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite thing that we get is like, I'm an artist.
Yeah.
So I get this for free. It's like, dude, who are we making these things for? Literally every guitar player. Everyone's an artist. So
yeah, right? That's hilarious.
Yeah, come up with some more.
Isn't it weird the richer people get, the more free shit they get?
Yeah, but what I see that there's like there's a crossover. Like the super rich dudes just buy it. No questions asked. Like Noel Gallagher.
You're right.
Just like he bought, I don't know if I should say that, but like we woke up one morning and like he bought everything.
Yeah.
Like it just showed. We no manager called or anything like that. It's always the indie rock dudes whose managers call or like tour managers like, this dude would like to try out one of everything. Could you come meet us? It's like, I got shit to do. But
yeah.
We'll find somebody. We'll find somebody to come out there, and I don't mind that. Like a lot of those bands are the bands that I like, and like we like to support the bands.
Well, that's cool, right? Like a Dream.
Yeah,
these guys using your pedals.
Yeah, that we.
But I get it if it's just some fucking.
But it's like it's overwhelming at some point. Like every day, there's like tons of emails that come in. Like so and so wants this thing, and some things will grab me. Like, like. There's always good bands. Like I'm not like we don't discriminate. Like if we don't like the band, they don't get a deal or something like that. But it's like how cool they are about going about it. Not I'm an artist, I demand this thing.
Yeah.
But like we have to have some kind of relationship with people, whether like we become friends or they're friends of friends or we like their band to get anything from us. I guess.
Yeah.
But like there's like me and Juan and Jonathan, his friend, have introduced us to a ton of people like Troy Van Leeuwen, like the Queens of the Stone Age dudes.
Awesome. One of the greatest bands ever.
And I love that band. And like, we gave those guys some pedals. And then they were super appreciative and like they invite us to shows and stuff like that. And they're cool. Like they're nice.
I think the
dudes
cooler
about it.
you
And,
are
like,
when you're famous, the longer you go.
Of course. And like that's the thing. Those guys, everyone in that band, like, even like the guys who are just on it for a tour or whatever, super nice dudes, all of them. It goes a long way. It goes a long way for people. And like I notice that, like I am more inclined to give stuff to dudes.
Yeah,
which is normal. Like when you're talking to them, it's like you can have a conversation about guitars. Yeah. Not about I'm in this band and I don't have time. Give me this thing. It's like,
that's fucking. It's like that shit is just stupid.
It's
right?
like I don't actually care. Like I don't have time either. So like it doesn't matter. But like if they're cool, like they'll get stuff. And I tend to forget a lot of the people like that use our stuff. It's kind of weird. Like my go-tos are the ones that I just did, which are not necessarily bands that I would listen to.
Yeah.
But like those guys, like there is sort of like a point where like almost every band that has a song on the radio right now, we have given a pedal to.
Wow.
Or like have used our stuff. Like,
that's
on
fucking
songs.
awesome, right?
Tons of people from like Katy Perry's band, like down to like Paramore and stuff like that. I know that all of those guys have used our stuff in the studio, just because we're friends with all these engineers and like we know what studios carry all of our pedals and stuff like that. And just like from being involved, like from Julie booking bands and from me touring with the Black Keys and then from going to all these NAMM shows, like we have like sort of a weird network of like people from all different styles of music that like will fill us in on stuff, be like, so-and-so is using this and so-and-so is using that. And it's cool to hear that. Like it's kind of mind-blowing to me. Like,
that's got to be badass, right? Because
like,
your pedals... You're not a company for 40, 50 years.
Right, yeah, just 10 years. And it really started to take off like for real like four years ago. To where it's like, I don't even know how to process this information. Like I feel like at some point I'll process like, oh shit.
Yeah. Do you remember when it started?
We made some sort of difference in all of this stuff.
Do you remember when it took off? Like all of a sudden you're like, fuck, this is out.
Yeah, totally. Like it was 2012. Like we were working, the business was out of my basement.
Yeah.
And our production manager now, his name is Jeff France. I've known him since he was 14. He's the first person I hired on New Year's Day of 2010. And I was like, I don't know how much I can pay you, but I need help, and I don't know like how this is going to work out. And he kind of stuck with it. Like he was like, whatever, we're going to do this. So it'd just be me and him for 14 hours in the basement. And then like
just making pedals?
Just making pedals. And then like,
how many could you make in 14 hours?
Not many, but like you'd be surprised. Like we would get like 20 done, which is not, it's a lot for like two dudes to do, but it's also not a lot. Like it's, it feels like so much, and then you look at it.
Well, that's 100 a week, right?
Yeah, that's about it. And so then like it became apparent like 6 months later, 3 months later, like we need somebody else, but it needs to be an intern because we need to make more, but we don't have money. So then we hired this dude, Justin Seeker. So he worked as an intern for a few months until we were finally okay, we can pay you. All these people are still at the company, so it's like
that's great.
They're all still there doing things. And then there's like one after another. Like every 3 months, we'd have to hire a new person, until it was 9 dudes working in a 300 square foot space with all of the gear and all of the storage and all of the shipping and all of like the business stuff. And it was like my bathroom smelled like a bum was just shitting in it constantly. Like you'd be wearing...
It's like 30 shits a day in there.
Yeah, it's like just smells like bum shit pizza.
30 shits a day.
And
that's
like,
how you measure success.
Yeah, how many shits have been taken in this bathroom? How bad does our house smell? But it'd be like shit, like I'm trying to go to sleep or I'm trying to do homework with the kids, and it's like...
You mean the warehouse was at your house?
Yeah, in my basement.
Oh, in your basement is big?
No, it's 300 square feet. We were just working out of that.
Oh, my God.
So then, like, I mean, the house is decent size house, so, like, upstairs is fine. Like, but they would be, my kitchen was their kitchen. My bathroom on the first floor was their bathroom. I get it.
After a while, you're
so
like,
it's
man.
Like, so then it's like, maybe I want to sleep in someday, or maybe I just want to walk around my house in pajamas and not have to see the people that I employ or something. Yeah. Like, no offense to them. So then, like, I moved the shop. Like, it became apparent we had to move in 2012. And I would say the second we moved, it was like we opened up all the space. We could hire a couple more people, and it just like that, I think, was what it needed. And that's when Julie came in to kind of like, I was like doing everything. Like, design.
What was she doing?
Julie was a financial planner for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So, like, she needed out of that job. Like, it was a very corporate job. Yeah. And, like, it wasn't a cool company at all.
You guys are just cool rock and roll couple now, right? I mean, it's nothing better than having your...
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of been doing this shit forever. Like, I said, she ran a booking. And, like, we'd let bands stay at our house all the time, and we'd go see shows. But we had kids, and, like, that kind of killed, like, the social time. Which
how'd you come up with the name before we get out of here?
EarthQuaker Devices.
Because I'm from San Fran, of course. If it was from there, you'd go, EarthQuaker. But
it's kind of a boring, shitty story, but it's sort of all right. There's some friends of mine, this band that we used to tour with all the time called the Minus Tie, the kind of like a mathy metal band, wanted to form like a more straightforward metal band, and the name was EarthQuaker because they thought it sounded cool when you would just yell out EarthQuaker. And I kind of just stole the name and adopted it to this pedal company because I didn't think it would be anything. Right. I just thought I'd make some pedals for some friends, and I was like, EarthQuaker Devices. Yep. It kind of sounded like a Japanese name or something like that to me.
Oh, just because
EarthQuaker! Just because you throw devices on the end
of it. It's like Godzilla film.
Yeah.
EarthQuaker!
Exactly. So, like, I don't think it would be the name that I would have picked if I had to think, like, I'm starting a business. This is it. Right. But it sort of fell onto the business, and now I'm happy with it. It sticks out a little.
Well, thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I'm ready for the Del Razor pedal 2015.
I'm on it. Right after NAMM. That'll be the next big release.
Del Razor pedal. You got Instagram.
Yeah, it's EQ Devices _ just to throw people off.
Yep, and then the website.
EarthQuakerDevices.com.
Right, and then you guys advertise here. They get a discount if they hit you guys up.
Yep.
And then you're at NAMM show, and then your pedals are all over around the world.
Yeah, you can find them anywhere. Just ask.
Thanks for coming down,
Thanks for having me.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
All right, brother.
Sounds good.
See ya.
See ya.